Hey guys, thanks for watching today's video. And in this video, we're going to be talking about ways that'll help you be a better teacher. You know, student leaders do a lot of things for the band program, and one of the things that they do, and one of the things that's really, really important, is when you're called upon to be a teacher. I can remember that when I was a young teacher and a young leader, it was overwhelming. You know, you get in the environment where you're teaching and all the sounds are coming at you and just not really sure if you're hearing things correctly or how you're supposed to respond, or if I'm outside on the field, am I looking at the right things? Am I trying to identify the right visual aspects, and what do I say to help them get better? So it can be a daunting, sort of overwhelming experience. And just in some sense, it really takes a while to get comfortable in that teaching situation. But I did find that I got a lot better as a teacher when I started to really focus on a few things in my teaching, and then everybody got better as a result. So I'm going to give you 3 ideas today that'll help you be a better teacher. Okay? So the first one is going to be trying to focus just on one thing at a time when you're in a teaching situation. In any given moment of rehearsal, whether that's a marching rehearsal or a music rehearsal, there are lots of things that could be commented on and could be worked on. There are always issues that we're trying to resolve and make better. And so good teachers are able to really kind of focus on just the main thing for that moment. So really just one thing at a time is a good approach. So in music rehearsals, a lot of times, if I'm running a sectional especially, the goal is going to be, let's get the right notes and right rhythms. So there's kind of a priority of rehearsal items that we work through in those situations. And one is notes and rhythms. So as we go through the repetitions and we rehearse things, I'm just focusing on, are we playing the right notes and the right rhythms? And if other things are not there too, like articulations or dynamics or other problems that are there, we'll get to them. But for right now, let's just get security and clarity on the right notes and the right rhythms. And once we get that to happen, we work through another list, and that might include things like articulation. We've got the right notes, the right rhythms, and so now are the articulations matching? Are we able to play with the right staccato, the right accent, the right marcato? What are the note links supposed to be? And so that becomes my focus for the next segment. Or I might work into, after that, we're just looking at precision. We've got different parts working together, and are they lining up together across the page? How precise are things? Do we need to slow things down a little bit? Do we need to isolate into smaller sections of music? But whatever I'm focusing on, or whatever I'm working on at the given moment, I'm trying to focus my attention really just on that one particular goal. And then we can blend in other elements and be musical as we go, but it helps the learners when they have just sort of a singular focus. So I don't want to overwhelm myself, my own ears or my own eyes, or the ensemble by having them do too many things at once. Same thing is true for visual rehearsals. Maybe I'm outside and I'm just teaching marching fundamentals. You know, especially for young marchers, there's a lot. It can be really overwhelming. So let me just, for a while, maybe just focus on just their upper body posture. And let's just, whatever we're doing, maybe they've got the wrong step size or it's not exactly right. We'll get to that. But for now, what is the posture like? Then we can move into what is the step size like. And so we sort of work our way through a checklist of just singular items at a time. So we give the learners an opportunity to focus and concentrate on developing the particular skill that you want them to develop. Okay? So that's the first one. Focus on one thing at a time. The second one is modeling. Gosh, you know, modeling is maybe my favorite teaching strategy that I talk to my teachers that I work with a lot, student leaders and people that are training to be music ed majors. Modeling is hugely important. And we know, it's been proven, and it's very consistent, the studies show that modeling is really effective when you teach it. But even though it's one of the most effective strategies we have, somewhere around 10 to 25% of modeling happens at any given rehearsal. So music teachers are spending more time, 75 to 90% of their time in rehearsal, talking about music rather than showing or making music. And so modeling is really, really important. How do we model? Okay, so modeling is just demonstrating what the music is supposed to sound like. Maybe I'm going to sing that for them, a short phrase. Maybe I'm going to sing a particular rhythm, or maybe I'm going to clap it for them, or maybe I'm going to play it on my instrument for them. Whatever we can do to get that into their ear and help them get a real good context for what it's supposed to sound like, the better it's going to be, rather than trying to use a bunch of words and describe and explain and describe. Just model for them. That's a super effective teaching strategy. And it also works outside on the marching field too. If I want to talk about posture and how tall we're supposed to be and what the vertical alignment is supposed to be from my ears all the way down to my ankles, what is that supposed to be? I'm way better off to show them as many times as it takes rather than to keep explaining to them. So modeling, we always want to model. What is the right step size? Let me demonstrate that for you as we go in this sort of 8 to 5 step size or adjusted step. We're working in the sets. I want to be a good modeler and demonstrate for them constantly. So number one thing at a time. Number 2, modeling. Modeling is an effective teaching strategy. And then the last one I'll talk about today is just in the feedback. And the first comment I'll say about feedback that you provide as a teacher is that we just need lots of feedback. Teachers should always be assessing, they should always be providing feedback, and is this getting better? Are we on track? What do I need to do next? Do we need to go back and do that again? We should need to be always giving that feedback to the learners. And one of the things I always think about is that when somebody's learning something, they need constant feedback much more than they need constant teaching. And so sometimes it's just like running it back with that good feedback. Do that again and apply this element as you do it. I think about with feedback trying to be as specific as you can and avoid generic feedback. When I see a lot of young leaders and young teachers sort of struggling as a teacher in the feedback they give, it's because it's just really generic or it's really vague. It doesn't really mean a lot. They say things like, okay, that was good, or that was better, or okay, that sort of thing. And so that's a little bit helpful, but not really. It's much better to be more specific and concrete about what you're hearing. For example, maybe I'm rehearsing a sectional with a trumpet section, and we've got some wrong notes that are happening. And so it's much better for me to say, okay, trumpets in measure 28 on beat 3, it should be an F sharp right there. I'm hearing an F natural. Let's all play and hold that right quick. Good. Now we'll go back and put it into context. Rather than me saying something like, oh gosh, somebody's playing a wrong note, trumpets. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Not as effective as the feedback that's really concrete and really specific. So we have to really train ourselves, train our ears to, again, listen for that one thing at a time, but also when we hear it or when we see it, really hone in on it as best we can and sort of get right to it rather than sort of beating around the bush and being generic about what we're hearing or what we're seeing. So music rehearsals, very specific. If it's a wrong note, where is it? What beat is it? If it's a rhythm, what is the wrong rhythm? Point that out for them. What is the right rhythm? Maybe there's a tempo problem. We hear rushing in a certain phrase or a certain section. We're rushing that or we're dragging that in that measure. Trying to be as specific as you can. Same thing outside in the set. Maybe we're working on step sizes to get to a particular hit and people are just not taking the right step size. Maybe they're just taking really big steps at the end, which means that they need to take bigger steps at the beginning so that they're equal steps all the way through. So the feedback would be, let's make sure there's equal steps all the way through and try to get to that halfway point on count 8 if it's a 16 count move. So we get that sort of checkpoint in there. Or maybe we're outside and we've got a rehearsal section where we have just various listening cues or oral cues that we're working as we're trying to get things to line up in a bigger run through. There are lots of things that we could comment in that moment, but maybe the focus right now is on that listening cue. So I just want to go back through that and guide their listening. Whatever it is, I want to be really specific in that feedback I can give them, and then the learning really, really is better, rather than sort of do it again, do it again, do it again. That sort of just doesn't help. It slows things down. It also adds to the frustration of the learning process. Okay, so those are 3 quick ideas that you can work on as you work on becoming a better teacher. Think about just focusing on one thing at a time, one element at a time, and that means that we're editing out some other things that could be commented on. Maybe we mention them, but we don't focus on them, but just the one thing, what is the main thing, and let's keep making that the main thing, and then we're going to model as much as we can. Let's show for them what it's supposed to look like. Let's sing for them or demonstrate for them what it's supposed to sound like. And then lastly, feedback. Highly specific, highly concrete, avoiding generic, sort of overall kind of vague senses of feedback. Okay, hope this is helpful to you. Lots of luck as you get into the teaching situation. No need to be overwhelmed or daunted by that, and focus on these things today, and I think you're going to be a lot more effective.